Welcome to She's a Full-On Monet, a digital lifestyle magazine for women. Every week, our editor-in-chief, Kelly Castillo, along with Megan Block and special guests, participate in a deep dive discussion about recent articles and topics we have covered. We invite you to become part of our community where everyone's welcome. You can totally sit with us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to She's a Full-On Monet. I am your host, Kelly, and I have with me Megan.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I am fully recovered from COVID. Thank you guys for being patient with my scratchy voice, but I'm back to full steam ahead, 100%.
Yeah, I bet you slowed down by like that much because you didn't sound. I mean, I know you probably think you sounded maybe slightly different when you maybe hear it back, but to me, you sounded like at 100.
Other people were telling me I sounded like I had a frog in my throat, so that's why I brought it up. But I really didn't get very sick. I stayed in bed one day and rested, and then I pretty much felt normal after that. Yeah, my partner though, he has health issues already, so it took him a solid 2 weeks to feel better, and it's happening really, really slowly. So hopefully he gets completely on the mend. Yeah. Okay, so today we are going to talk about something. I don't think we've ever talked about this subject before, so I'm kind of excited to explore it. But and it's the last few weeks I feel like we've been doing a lot of like mom topics. So this is a little bit more broad. I feel like this one is kind of more for everyone. So we're going to talk about the different types of attraction and what that even means, what they are, what kind of relationships come out of them, and why each one is important in its own right. And I've never really thought about this before. I mean, I think I just kind of took it for granted that attraction is attraction. I didn't really think about the different types and how they kind of correlate to different relationships in my life. But I think it's an interesting topic.
Absolutely. I think just like all things that we dive further into, it's like I feel like we've all been aware that there's a much more a complexity to things like attraction, or like when we talk about, with the gaslighting, it's like when you're aware of something's wrong, but like to actually pinpoint it, name it, and like address it and individualize it is like a whole nother level. But it's something we're all kind of doing with a lot of things. So, yeah, I think it's super interesting. It's something I've always kind of been in tune with, but I've always just kind of like you just thought attraction is attraction. It's not very, one way. There's a lot of complexities to it.
Yeah. I've always thought of it as really one dimensional, and like, if you're not attracted to someone, then, as a romantic partner, then that's it, move on, find someone else. I hadn't, and in terms of like dating, I hadn't really thought of other types of attraction that are totally platonic, or of how multifaceted attraction needs to be in order for a relationship to have like real longevity. Because I mean, I think all of us who have been either in a partnership or married for any length of time, not in the honeymoon phase anymore, and especially as you age, right? Our bodies change, our sex drives change, our needs and desires change. And so if our relationship is going to kind of grow at the same pace together and deepen, it goes a lot from like physical attraction, or what we would call sexual attraction, to more like romantic attraction and emotional attraction. And I think that's really key, because if all you have in your relationship is like a physical attraction, it's not going to have the longevity that it's going to need to really go the distance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you may feel like you feel guilty maybe about like when you notice that it shifted and you're like, let's say you're with your partner, say they are not physically in the same state that they were when maybe you began dating. And then you have to realize that is that just what you're attracted to, or is there something to it? Because like, get a great trainer, give it 6 months, and you can go back to that at any point. But if that's all that's keeping you from a romantic standpoint, then that's not going to have like the steam to have the longevity that it would take to be in, say, a marriage or a long-term marriage. Because looks like you hear everywhere, looks fade,
Yeah. I mean, my situation, right? When I met my partner, I was in my 20s. He was in his 40s. Now I'm in my 40s and he's in his 60s. It's a very different ball game. And I'm not saying I'm no longer physically attracted to him. I still am, but I think it's more of an emotional connection that we have now. Definitely when health issues come up and age, it becomes a factor. If all you have to rely on for connection with someone is, physical, it really makes the relationship as much more shallow than a relationship where you have an emotional connection as well, or emotional connection first, either one. When we were, 20 years younger, I think the physical attraction was a way bigger deal for us. Now that we're older, like our emotional connection is what drives us forward. And as we get even older, right? I mean, my husband's in his late 60s. As he gets even older, the emotional connection is what keeps things going. And once people like really need to rely on each other in ways they didn't before, like that kind of connection is the most powerful.
We're all susceptible to things, weird, bizarre things happening to us at any moment. You could lose your looks due to the most bizarre things at any moment. And, maybe you're the one that has that physical, I'm only physically attracted to them. And then your looks are the one that's in jeopardy. And you're hoping that someone has found something within you to stay for, like build on that, find those things, because the physicality is so funny. We're at a baseball game last night for Father's Day, to celebrate Father's Day, an angel game. And my oldest daughter said something about like, oh, I hope mom doesn't get on the Jumbotron, because I don't want like another like man to fall in love with, like she was just joking, like another man to fall in love with her. And like my husband, we've been married for 12 years and together for longer. He was like, oh, we're both too tired to like fall in love with someone else. But he said it in such a way where it wasn't like, oh, it was like, but for real though, it's like, man, like that's so much work, like I go and I work on my physicality for me. Like anything after that is honestly like an afterthought. I don't do it for my husband. I don't do it to keep in shape so I can look a certain way for my husband. He appreciates it, but it's not the glue that holds us together 12 years into our marriage anymore.
And there are going to be times in our lives when physical or especially sexual attraction is just not in the cards at the moment. Maybe you're just pushed a baby out of you, or maybe you have cancer,
just
or maybe
lost a loved one or something
maybe you're taking medication that just makes your sex drive really low. There can be a million things, and that don't even have to be looks based, right? And that's I think that's the most shallow form of attraction, in my opinion.
It's what gets us together in the first place. I get it. We're not talking about the ones that you're like 3 dates in and you're like, hold on, I feel judged. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the ones that have been together for a long enough period of time where you know each other's friends and families, and like you can't be in a room alone together because you can't have a conversation that's deep because you don't really like, there's just the physicality. That's fine.
Yeah. So that's the first type we're going to talk about, is sexual attraction. And I think everyone knows what that means. Sexual attraction is when at your core, you just want to be intimate with someone else and that you're attracted to them in that way. You might not even know their last name.
It's like a carnal thing. It's not deeper than that.
It's very animalistic. You could have just met them 5 minutes ago and be feeling that. It has nothing to do with any kind of emotional.
You could not know them at all. You could just follow them on social media. Like it has nothing to do with knowing anything about them, not their name, not their favorite type of pasta shape, nothing. Like it's super but it's universal, and like everyone feels it, everyone goes through it.
With the exception of people who are asexual.
Well,
we do want to talk about that, because people who never feel this type of attraction, that's what's, in case you guys are not familiar with that term, that's what's defined as asexual, meaning they never feel that particular attraction. They can feel physical attraction towards another person, but actual sexual attraction is not something that they experience. And I want to say, just the fact that people who are asexual can build and develop really meaningful, lifelong, intimate relationships with other people explains how irrelevant sexual attraction is to long-term relationships.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah, no, I mean, for the majority of us, sexual attraction is often paired with another form of attraction.
Physical
That's what
attraction,
takes
right.
like a very healthy, well-rounded relationship the long run, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's
And
like you
that,
could check off one or two boxes, but there's a couple that are like super core that you need in a long-term situation, to where if that's lacking, it's not going to have the steam.
right. And I think when you say the word attraction, I think most people think of either sexual or physical attraction.
Yeah, I think that's
You-
all they think of.
Yeah. And you can feel sexual attraction to your husband of 50 years, and you can also feel it to Jason Momoa. Like it's not indicative of a deep connection.
You hear that? You hear that, husbands? You can still, it's okay. And yeah, no, I mean, and it takes a confident man, but I love when a confident man, like my husband, like he's totally confident in his sexuality. He's like, he understands Chris Hemsworth is an attractive person. Like it's all good, you know, but that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's
So
just,
how do you differentiate between sexual attraction and physical attraction? And they are very intertwined in some ways. But I think the difference is sexual attraction obviously is the impulses that you're getting, that you want to be intimate with that particular person. You want to do sexual acts with that particular person. Physical attraction could be non-sexual. It could be a platonic attraction that you just want to, this is someone you feel physically attached to, where you want to cuddle, you want to love on them. And it doesn't necessarily need to represent like
you're drawn towards them in a certain way, but it's not a sexual, like,
yeah, if you
not
think
sexually drawn towards them.
If you think of physical attraction in terms of the 5 love language and a physical touch, you can represent your love language of physical touch with someone you're not intimate with. It could be your child, it could be your pet, it could be your best friend that you want to hug and like braid their hair or whatever. I don't know. But I'm saying like you can show a love of physical touch with people who you have absolutely no sexual attraction towards, and that's not what it's about at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way in my mind that I can differentiate those two things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I had always thought of them really intertwined, but when I think of it that way, I mean, I feel physical love towards my pets. I love like just laying on the floor and getting puppy cuddles. It's the cutest thing ever. I'm giving tummy scritches. That does not mean that I'm sexually attracted to my dog. That just means that I have a physical love language with that dog. We cuddle.
See, when I hear like physical attraction that's not sexual based, I think of like someone like, you know, like a celebrity, like Gwyneth Paltrow. I think she's so attractive, but I'm not sexually attracted to her. Like I can appreciate her beauty, but I am not sexually drawn to her. Does that?
That's an important distinction, because that is actually another type of attraction.
Okay.
Aesthetic attraction.
Yes, it is. Okay. See, these are where I got confused, because to me, when I hear physical attraction, like when I'm just straight attracted, that's not sexual based, that's what I think of, because I always have to say like, I think she's pretty, but I don't want to like hook up with her. Like but you're right. That's what you're talking about.
Aesthetic attraction basically means that while you may not be physically or sexually attracted to the person, you're attracted to how they look. You're attracted to how they present themselves. It could be their style. It could be their physical look. It could be like, it doesn't necessarily mean I want to be with that person. It could mean I appreciate how that person looks, or I even would love to look like that. It could be like a celebrity whose style you want to emulate. It could be someone who you follow on social media who just has like this really great vibe to their aesthetic of their home, of their style, of their family that you appreciate. So that's like when we say we have, obviously both of us are heterosexual women. When we say that we have a girl crush on someone, that's basically what we're saying, that we appreciate them and their aesthetic. Something in their look or their style really resonates with us. And I tend to have those kinds of aesthetic attractions towards people who have a very opposite style of mine. And that's because
isn't that funny? Me too.
Yeah, I have a really classic feminine style, but when I see girls who can rock something very, very different than I would feel comfortable, you know, wearing, or a style aesthetic that is totally opposite of mine, I have such appreciation for it because it's so foreign to my personal aesthetic. And I think that's really interesting, because you would think that I would look at people who have the same style as me and just they're doing it better and just appreciate them, but it's opposite of that.
Same. Like for me, I think of the example of like social media, like Instagram feeds, like pages and stuff like that. Like I
Yeah.
love me like a very clean, white, like well put together. But if I try and emulate that, not my life, not my natural way of living. And it feels so forced, and it's like it's almost stressful that I have to
Mhm.
just sit back and appreciate the beauty for what it is, not try and be that. But like I totally understand that, because it's like having like super straight hair and looking at people's beautiful curly hair and being like, man, man, you know.
I love when girls have or men have like great natural curls and wear their hair in a really natural style that
Right?
accentuates the curls, because I have stick straight hair. And my clothing style, my personal aesthetic is very tailored, very structured, very feminine, classic, and it tends to be, you know, on the conservative side. And what I find is that when I'm looking through Instagram or Pinterest or wherever, doesn't matter, what I'm drawn to is either really androgynous styles, like women who can really rock like menswear, and also like really bohemian kind of cottage core-y, but maybe in a little bit darker, like gothic cottage core look. That, sorry. That's a style that I think is super cool, but is so far opposite of mine.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm this like I appreciate, but have you ever felt the impulse to try and apply that to your style to see if it's something that's maybe now more like you're seeing? Like I could see you rock an androgynous look for sure, because you rock button downs. It's like it's, you know, it's not that much like of a trend, like a change. It's just more of like a style shift. But I notice that when it feels so foreign, or it feels so forced, or it's like a chore, then it's just, maybe it's just meant to be appreciated, you know.
I'm rocking a button down today, and I do wear like suits. I have several suits that I wear on a somewhat regular basis. But what I've found is that I tend to feel less comfortable, less like myself. I feel like kind of, I'm sorry, I'm dog sitting. I feel I'm dog sitting my daughter's little puppy.
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm kind of wearing a costume.
Okay, it's not you, it doesn't have the vibe of you. Yeah, that's, and I'm the same. If I try and like I see like the way like your daughter's dress are so cool, you know. I feel like that way if I try and like dress in a way that I really appreciate, now that I have this like freedom of expression. Because growing up I wasn't allowed to just express myself through fashion. My mom was very like, told me what to wear, not what to wear all the time, but wasn't free about it. But now I feel too old and silly, you know. Like if I even try and wear anything from the junior section at Target, like no, like I just appreciate it, and I think it's amazing. Or like those like Instagram feeds where they look like they live on like a cloud in Paris. I don't know how everything is like pastel pink and their fashion is on point all the time, and they're just getting like a bagel, and it's like I just appreciate it, because if I try and do that, I'm going to be exhausted by like day 3. I don't have the longevity for that. So
Yeah, I occasionally when I'm out, I'll see something that I love, and I know it's not me, but I love it so much. And so I'll buy it and I'll bring it home and I'll try to incorporate it. And first of all, it goes with nothing else in my wardrobe. And then second of all, I don't feel comfortable in it. And I can tell when I'm not comfortable, because I'll fuss with my clothes a lot. I'm very fidgety.
yeah.
And it's just, it never ends up working.
Yeah. And I don't feel guilty about it. I just know that like I feel like by the time we're at the age of like the 30s and up, like you know who you are, and you don't discourage yourself for like not checking off all the boxes. You can surely appreciate aesthetically for things and be attracted to things for what they are, and not feel like you need to incorporate that into your life, you know?
Yeah.
People
That's
feel
exactly
such
what
a
it is.
pressure to incorporate that. You know, it's like, oh, I follow her on Instagram and I think it's her life's perfect, so I'm going to try and only post like brown tones. And it's like, for how long until you realize that that's just not who you are?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like I like you said, I love following people on social media who have like really minimal modern homes, lots of white. And my home is the exact opposite of that. Exact opposite. So much color, so eclectic, and lots of like antiques, and it's not minimal at all. It's very maximalist style. but it's such a vibe to me that I think is so cool. And I don't know that I could live in a house like that, because I don't know if it would feel like home to me. I've always lived in houses with like a lot of books,
Like, have you
a
seen
lot
like
of
Kim
antiques.
Kardashian's house? Is like,
Right. Exactly.
like,
Exactly what I'm talking about.
I
That's a little
can't.
bit over the top for me.
I could never live in a home like that. It just feels like I would be robbing my children of some sort of personality of their home. Or like I'd be always with like my magic eraser, just like crazy clean. I could maybe when I'm alone in my 50s, I don't, or my 80s or my 90s, I don't know, but it's just not my life. Like, but I can watch it and I can go, wow. And they have kids too, and I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, probably a lot of help to keep sticky
And
peanut butter
magic
fingers.
erasers, those things are a godsend. Like you can have an
Yeah.
all white house with kids, but you could never emulate that or try and copy it in any way because you don't live in a house that has that vibe. So
yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
if you remember, there was one point when I rented a house that was that vibe. It was all white carpet, white stone, and it had those big bubble chandeliers.
yeah.
And it was very hard for me to meld my style with that, with the furniture that I had and what I gravitate to when I go furniture shopping. It was really hard for me.
I remember you're
work.
like, if I ever leave this place, I would have to just like, and I moved into what is my own personal style. I would have to get rid of all this stuff because I got this stuff to fit this place, but this place is not my style. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. Because it's not your style. You're more like cottagey, lived in kind of.
Yeah, our house is a Tudor style, which is a very English style house. It's a very traditional Tudor. So a lot of wood paneling, wood floors, and old stone. And then we have like Persian rugs. In every room, we have heavy velvet drapes and I have all different colors. Every room has a color scheme. So, I mean, when I first started living with my partner, I moved into a house he already had, and the whole house was in neutral tones, like golds, browns, creams. And it was lovely. It was professionally decorated, but I remember thinking to myself, he built that house, so I wasn't going to say that to him. I remember thinking to myself that for me, it didn't feel like me. It didn't have my character. It didn't have any personality, because you could have removed our family from that house and put another family in it, and like no difference. And to me, houses have personal photos. Houses have all your favorite books. Houses have like sofas that are overstuffed that you can just jump onto and lay down, and and you don't have to be so fussy about everything because everything is already feeling lived in.
Well, it's just like, who are you trying to impress? Because before social media, it would be like the people that came over for dinner. Like, who are we impressing with this perfect house? Like, I'm totally the person that if you tell me you're coming over to visit, like I will hyperventilate clean like a crazy person. Because I want it to be clean, because I've been to people's homes and their bathrooms weren't clean, and that grosses me out. But like, it's lived in looking 99% of the time, unless you tell me you're coming over, in which I'm going to try and fake this as hard as I can. It's like having to see those. I'm going to use Kim K's example of her house because we've kind of all seen it, but that style of like white, no toys, staged home situation, so beautiful. So like I can appreciate it, but it's never going to be me.
No. And now we have a house full of antiques that we've collected on all of our trips all over the world, and photos of the grandkids and the kids, and our collections of stuff that we've decided to collect that mean something to us, that are very personal. So they're not like, oh, we put this here because it matches the wallpaper. No, it's there because we chose it and we collected it and it has some meaning to us. So it means a lot more. And we found that we're so much happier there. Because it has so much personality. But I'm scrolling on social media.
We're still appreciating those empty white bookshelves, ladies. Like, you keep doing you and looking like you don't live in your own home, because
I think it's beautiful. And I always see them and I'm like,
what about the women in like
aesthetic.
their beautiful gowns, like, or they're completely put together outfits going and doing the normal day-to-day things? Like, I guess I can appreciate it, but I'm also like, for real, like, I don't know. I want to say and this is for a topic for a whole nother podcast, but I feel like at what point does appreciating something aesthetically become like being obsessed over a reality that's not even real, because you know that woman's batch working with her photographer picking up those grapes. Like she bought grapes like a regular person yesterday and then came back in her cute neutral Calvin Klein outfit and with her photographer, and now she's picking grapes. Like that's not what she's doing, but we don't know that, and we go, oh, I'm less than because I'm not picking grapes in my Calvin Klein outfit, you know?
Yeah, so that's a really important thing to say about aesthetic attraction. I think aesthetic attraction is really great. It helps us all define our own style and appreciate others people's style and figure out what we like, what we don't like. That what we like doesn't have to mean how we live. We can like things and still not choose to live like those things. That's fine too. But I think we have to draw the line at comparison, because aesthetic attraction lends itself to comparison. And we don't want to do that, because we can appreciate things and not need to emulate them. I appreciate people's talent in home decor and putting clothes together and doing hair and makeup, things that I'm not talented in at all. I can appreciate that because it's a skill and it's definitely an innate talent that I don't have, but that doesn't mean that I need to go and put that kind of expectation on myself.
Absolutely. And if you find yourself following someone that you started with, maybe like this innocent aesthetic attraction is now becoming kind of like an obsession where you're kind of like second guessing every move you're making in your own life, then maybe unfollow that person and do that for a while so you can regain your own identity for a bit, because it can become a bit obsessing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm only saying that because like I do that sort of thing and I don't have anybody doing that, but a friend of mine had someone was so creepy. Like she posted about like she had a follower like literally redo to the exact location, dress, photo style and aesthetic of her, like all these different photos. But then she went and copied every single part of her engagement photo. Like she got engaged and this other person that she follows like got engaged, and so she copied her engagement photos, and it's like something so personal.
Yeah.
And then seeing like she bought the same dress, went to the same place, did the same poses, and it's like you're literally stealing my identity and stealing like precious memories that I thought of and created. So it's like, if it's becoming unhealthy, not to that level, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Take a step back, unfollow it, because it's not a healthy aesthetic attraction.
There are two more types of attraction that we haven't talked about. And I think the one that is most interesting to me is romantic attraction, because I think this is kind of like the fairy tale story rom-com attraction where, you know, the person was best friends with this person for 10 years and didn't realize that they were actually attracted to them until some moment happened where there was like sparks flying in their eyes, and they both suddenly realized at exactly the same moment that they were actually in love with each other.
Yeah, we all have seen it. Starring Julia Roberts.
Yeah. And I mean, romantic attraction obviously often overlaps with physical or sexual attraction or emotional attraction. There's attractions don't have to be completely separate. There's always a lot of overlap, but it can also be its own completely separate thing. Because I don't know about you, but I have had times in my life when I first met someone, I had no physical attraction towards that person. I thought they're not my type. This isn't for me, whatever. But as time goes on and you get to know them a little bit better, and when you see someone on a regular basis or every day, you kind of stop seeing them, if that makes sense. Like you stop seeing them physically, all their features. So after a period of time, when you get to know this person a little bit better, suddenly that attraction starts to build, where before you would have sworn that there was no attraction there. That's what I think of when I think of romantic attraction.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the attraction that most people like write books and movies about.
Yeah. I mean, it also sounds like it could be the start of, we've talked about these in podcasts before, like the type of attraction where it's like not physical, but it's emotional attraction, where it's like you have, you know, like somebody's just like a friend or maybe a coworker and you're already involved with somebody, and then it goes to that next level where it's not platonic anymore, it's a romantic.
I think that's a very good example. And I also kind of think of this vein when I think of people who are attracted to the person and not necessarily the gender or the physical type.
Mm-hmm.
because some people feel romantic attraction towards all genders. Some people feel romantic attraction towards all physical types, which if you have a friend or someone in your life that you know who's been in more than one relationship and the physical types of their partners have been vastly opposite, that's a great indicator of either they have really varied physical attraction tastes or it's romantic attraction. And I think people in general tend to prioritize certain attractions over others. So a lot of people, I forget the term for it. There's a term for it. People who can't feel sexual attraction towards someone until they feel a romantic connection. There's a term for that. I don't remember what it is, but I think everyone kind of has, of the 5 attractions, everyone probably has a ranking for their own individual. What, if you're going to be with a partner, not a platonic friend, which order they kind of come in. Some people are more visual people and they get that physical or sexual attraction first. And other people want that emotional or romantic connection first. And then the physical attraction comes after. So everybody is very different. That's why
you think you may know what it is for you and you meet someone and they throw you for a loop, like I wasn't initially in the very beginning very like sexually attracted to my husband, but the first time we hung out, we had the best conversation. I learned it was the romantic attraction that came first. So yeah. And like maybe before that wasn't what I thought I was looking for. Maybe it just kind of threw me for a loop. So you may think you know what you want, and then somebody may throw you for a loop, and that order may change. You may meet someone, and then the order may change while you're in that relationship and what you value most and what's coming in as most important when you see the person.
Absolutely. And if you think about like back in the older days when we didn't have social media, FaceTime, and people lived farther apart from each other, transportation was not as readily available. People connected through letters. Mm-hmm. And people connected through those types of, or phone when that became available. And the kind of attraction that built it was not possible for it to be based on physical or sexual attraction, because at the very most they would send like an old timey photo or little painting of themselves or something. So you were introduced by a family member or answered some kind of a pen pal type thing. And then there was a long correspondence where people built the romantic attraction with each other, and they wrote each other beautiful romantic letters, and then they grew into some kind of bond where they would meet each other and the attraction would already be there. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of cultures have arranged marriages where often they're not even able to see each other before they marry, or it's very brief. So those are the kinds of things where learning about that person and learning about their family and getting to know their value system and stuff like that creates a romantic attraction before you ever have the opportunity to have a physical attraction.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, because I think a lot of the time, I mean, most of the case we think it has to start with physical or sexual first before it can develop into something else, and it doesn't always have to be that way, Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you've ever had kind of like, we used to go, oh my God, I'm going to date myself. But when my childhood, the internet was a thing, kind of beginning to be a thing, but there were no such things as in my teens and early 20s, the internet was definitely a thing, but there wasn't social media. There were chat rooms and things like that.
Oh, you're not dating yourself. AIM is the sauciest part of my life.
Yeah. And there were public chat rooms where you could, if you had a particular interest, you could go into a chat room and you created either an avatar of yourself or you just had your little name that you chose. That was the only way people knew anything about you. You were called, Sexy Mama 27 or what, I don't know.
Oh, your username had to say something about you.
Yeah.
Or a waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So people developed these really close connections on chat rooms, and people went on to date and get married and all this, or they had chat room affairs. There was all this drama, but there was no ability to see the person. It was all just over chat, over internet connection. So it had to be a romantic attraction, mm-hmm. which is really funny to me.
It's funny because it's so easy now. I mean, even the chat rooms that we use now, you're just
Our
looking at a
video.
picture and swiping left or right. You're not even
Yeah.
like getting to know the person. That's like such the last step of the process. It's like, oh, you have to be physically attracted to them, or at least like some of the things that they listed that you're hoping are true before you even get to chat with them. You know, like it's just.
But I do think, I mean, the traditional relationship here in America, the way that most of us have relationships, you first develop a physical or sexual attraction because you can't see romance across the room. You can't see emotion across the room or aesthetic, right?
Mhm.
You first have that physical attraction, sexual attraction to someone, and then it builds over time as you get to know the person deeper and as you get to experience life with that person. It becomes a romantic attraction and an emotional attraction. And that's what creates that longevity that we were talking about at the beginning, because I'm sorry, when you're both 85 years old, I doubt you are feeling physically and sexually attracted to that person in their moment today. What you are having is a romantic attraction to who they are at their core, and a romantic attraction, emotional connection to who they were when you met them. And that's, I know for myself, like when I have known people for 40 years, when I look at them, I still think of them the way they were when I met them.
Of course.
I mean, I can see them, obviously I'm not blind, but like in my head, will always think of them as how they looked when I met them.
Oh no, like when I think of your kids, like they're all still little kids to me that
Yeah.
like I feel like I still have to do certain things to make sure that they're doing like, but when I see them, they're adult people who
Gabby was
have literally more together than me. And I have to remind myself that like it has been some time and
Gabby was a literal baby when you met her.
Yeah.
She was toddling
9.
around, like not even fully formed person.
No, it was so adorable. And to see them as who they are now, it's like, I get it. You have to remind yourself that like time has passed, but when you meet that person, that's who they are in their head. And you know better. Like I'm not stupid. I know that they're adult, like they're adult children now, but to me, they're still.
But when I tell you, she just got accepted into the engineering program at Columbia.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She's having so much fun telling her siblings that she's Ivy League now. So she's obviously the best. The fact that happened. And when I look at her, I still think of her as wearing a tutu and suspenders and cowboy boots and like going to skating parties at.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember the recital when like the Christmas recitals that we would go to at the elementary school and like they would sing like I want a hippopotamus for Christmas?
Yeah.
And it would be next or something. Like that's what I see. You know, we were literally just driving through Newport Coast and I was like, just to get to Crystal Cove over Father's Day weekend this past weekend. And like I know the loop that I would have to take to get to the kids' school to wait in that drop-off line. And like I was telling Dan, I'm like, they're grown, but I still remember the drop off. Like I can only imagine as their mother what you picture, but yeah, it's fun.
I still picture her with like the gap in her 2 front teeth and like hair she never let me brush and fully feral child. And somehow this fully feral, wild, untamable child is at Columbia. What? I'm like, do they know though? Do they know that like you wouldn't let me brush your hair when you were little? Do they know that you like existed off of, ice pops all summer? Are you okay? Like, are they okay to let you in? You're a baby.
Oh my goodness. That's exciting. Yeah. That's really exciting though. That's really exciting. But all in all, I think just the level of what we value changes. And I think you know what you're looking for. And then you meet someone and like their brain or their heart just blows your mind that you're like, they are so not my type. I would never ever think to date this person. But did you ever watch the show New Girl?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when Cece dated that guy with the glasses that was just so like not a model? Like it was like season 2 or something like that. It was like right after she broke up with Schmidt for like the first time. And like he was like this brainiac that like,
I don't remember that.
He was like a brainiac gamer and like at first Schmidt just thought that like Cece was dating him just to make him mad, but then he realized like he was like a really good guy with like a really good heart and really cared for her. And he's like, okay, maybe it's not because he was all about physical. Like it's all about physical. Like how could she date someone who like she's dating like her mom? Like it blew his mind that it wasn't like a physical attraction that kept them together.
I have told both of my daughters, who are exceptionally attractive and probably could attract whoever, whatever. They have options, is my point. I have taught them, and I know it's hard to learn from words. Most people learn from experience. And I know for Sam, she did learn through experience. I think probably a little bit for Gabby too. But I've taught them, that the being nice is the number one thing to look for in a partner. Because if someone is not nice in a general, not just nice to you because they want something from you, but nice to everyone and just a nice person in general, it makes it really hard to live with someone who is not just nice and a good person. And then also finding someone that they can totally be themselves with and relax and just like kind of let it all hang out and just, be comfortable with, and someone that makes them laugh and makes them enjoy their life more is way more important than how somebody looks. And I really appreciate the fact that both of them have taken that to heart, and it has really shaped their choices in partner. Not that either of their partners are unattractive, but just that it wasn't their first priority. And I think that comes from life experience, from understanding, because if you find the most attractive, physically attractive person in the world and you don't have anything to talk to them about, that's not fun after the first 2 hours.
Well, that's gotta
tedious.
be why like the success rate of people staying with the people that they have an affair with is not that high, because like, oh yeah, it's fun for a second, but if that's all that's connecting you and there's somebody else that is checking off all those boxes on a much deeper level, then that's not going to last.
Yeah.
It's just not going to last, and you're going to regret it. You're going to end up feeling remorse for your decisions,
Absolutely. And I, for one, I'm attracted to people's intellect. I love people who are passionate about something, people who are really smart, people who can talk about an interest of theirs with so much energy. Like, I find that so attractive. I find that attractive in a friend, and I find that attractive in a partner. And knowing that that's what really gets me kind of like fired up about somebody and wanting to know them more and know them deeper, has helped me kind of bypass some of the more immature levels of attraction. Yeah. Because I'm kind of a relationship person. I'm not a dating person. I like routine. I like to be settled. So I like to be in a relationship. And so I know if I'm looking for something long-term, I'm looking for someone who, I can respect as a person. And for me, that means that, they have a good heart, and they're, intelligent and can talk on topics and have passion about stuff. It doesn't have to be anything, a specific passion, but something,
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to me. And so because of that, really, yeah. So I'm going to wait for that to stop so that I can finish my thought. Hopefully we edit this out. Today was not the day. I swear to God.
Life noodling calls, I swear.
Yes. But that kind of lends us to our last attachment style, which is emotional attachment. And I think romantic attachment and emotional attachment have a lot of overlap. But the difference is that you can have an emotional attraction to someone that is a totally platonic relationship. So emotional attraction, in my mind, means someone you can be completely vulnerable with and completely yourself and comfortable with and share really deep things. And sometimes that's not your romantic partner. I know a lot of couples who don't have that level of emotional intimacy with their spouse or partner, and they have great relationships. Everything is totally fine. That's just not the person they share that stuff with. Instead, they usually have a close best friend that they share that stuff with. Because sometimes the way you and your partner conflict resolve or talk through emotions, or your experiences that are not shared experiences, you come at them from so different of perspectives that that's not the person that you have that connection with. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your relationship.
No, I mean, it's just sometimes they're not giving you what you're looking for.
Right.
And so, sometimes like they may, like, for example, my husband isn't the type to come home and ask me to play the game of like 20 questions of like, how is your day? And then like elaborate about it. for me, I'm the opposite. Like, I feel like I want to at least ask him 3 to 5 questions and elaborate, because he's been gone all day, and what he did has value. And I want to show that I care about what he's doing. Because it would just be so easy to be like, how's your day? Good. How's your day? Good. But I noticed, and I actually called him out on it, and I didn't want to make him feel bad, but I was like, you never like ask me about my day, what I do, and like full transparency. I am in charge of half the bills around here. So without me, this won't work. So at least be a little interested. But like my best friend will, like, without any effort on her end, ask me like follow up, more elaborate questions when we hang out, because it seems like she either knows how a conversation flows back and forth in a healthy way, or she's genuinely interested in my life. Either way, I really find that refreshing, because I notice that if I have to bring it up to Dan, then it feels like I'm forcing him to do something that isn't natural. And then that's not really a game I want to play anyway.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like my partner is a great person, and we are very compatible in most ways. However, if I'm really going through something, his style of comforting me does not meet my emotional needs.
Yeah.
His language that he uses to try to make me feel better tends to have the opposite effect. It's not that he's doing anything wrong. It's what works for him. It's the words he likes to hear when he's emotionally upset. But for me, it does not work. For me, it makes me feel like uncomfortable for sharing what was wrong with me. Because what he does, and I'll explain this because it's something a lot of people do, and there's no fault in it. He likes to say, like, your situation isn't as bad as you think, because it could be so much worse. Like, imagine if it could be so much worse if you had this, or if this was your problem. But what you have is such a minor problem compared to this other thing that could be a problem.
That's super common.
Common. But what I hear when he says this, which is not his fault, he's only responsible for what he actually says. But what I hear is, you don't have the right to complain about your problem because someone else has a bigger problem.
Absolutely.
And that makes me shut down, where I have other people in my life who I go to with a problem, and I get my feelings validated a little bit better. And I've learned that I don't want to change him as a person, because part of loving someone is loving them for exactly who they are, where they are in their life. And he's trying to help me, and he's being loving and kind, but his response just doesn't work for me particularly. And that doesn't mean that
and it's hard, because if you were to go tell him that, A, he'd have to untrain himself, and B, he's only trying to do, his heart is in the right place. So it's like, how dare I micromanage how he's handling it? So I would just rather like table it, call it what it is, and go out for drinks with my friend to be like, guess what's going on? Because like, I just know that it's just I'm reading the room. Like, and I just know that like, you can agree, you're in a marriage too. This is a marathon, and I'm not going to like try and change the man every single time we're not meshing well when there is an equally healthy alternative.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some things that when I have emotional needs that I need met in a certain way, that I do communicate with him. When I'm sick, for instance, his response when I'm sick is he wants to baby me, cuddle me, be all over and help me and make me feel better. When I'm sick, I want to be left alone. I want to isolate myself, and I do not want to be touched, and I do not want anyone baby talking. I already feel very vulnerable when I'm sick, and I just want to pull in my turtle shell and hibernate until I feel better. When he's sick, he very much wants to be babied and cared for, and that makes him feel like loved and cared for. I have the opposite reaction. So I have explained that to him, because he's trying to help me. So I have it. And I said, I know it's like so hard for you to understand this because you feel the opposite. But when I'm sick, I really just want to be left alone. And so now he knows. And if I'm sick, he'll come in the room a few times and be like, do you need any medicine? Can I make you some soup? Okay, check back later. And like, he leaves me alone. And I know that's hard for him to do. So I really respect the fact that he does.
It's like the biggest form of love, when it's so not natural for them to do something, and they're strictly obviously doing it out of the fact that you told them that's what you needed. It's like such the form of like real love to me, because it's like, it's so easy to be in your bad habits and do that, but it's like, you heard me. Oh, you heard, like, message received, right? It feels so like good. Yeah.
That is one of the most affirming things, is that when you do take the time to tell someone what you need, and you're specific, people are not mind readers. But when you say, you know what, this is what I need from you, and that person says, I hear you and I'm going to do that. And it's opposite of their natural inclination. It is so powerful and it means so much more than if they just do what they would want, because that's what most people do. Most people do whatever it is that they would want because if they were in that situation.
Really, we want the action to change, but we also want to see that that the importance of the action changing was like understood. You know?
Just like when my daughter has told me in the past, like when I come to you with a problem and I'm complaining to you, I don't always want you to fix it. A lot of times I already know the solution and I just want you to tell me I can do this. So now I ask, do you want to vent or do you want your problem solved? And she'll say, nope, I just need to vent. I already know what to do. And then I'll be like, you've got this. You've been through worse and you've handled it like a champ. Like this is nothing for you. You're going to crush it. Like I'll be the biggest cheerleader in the world. But my natural inclination is to jump in and problem solve. I am a problem solver. But she had to communicate that to me, that for her emotional connection with me, she needed me to sometimes just allow her to complain and or vent or whatever it is, or trauma dump on me. And and me not to jump in, because it was
crazy. It's crazy. I was like that in my 20s too. And I was mad at my dad. And now in my 30s, I'm like, literally, if any of y'all want to solve all my problems, like jump right in. Like, this is not a figure it out in my venting. I'm always trying to get someone to solve my problems now.
Yes.
Like if I call you and I sound upset with a problem, I am not venting, you know, but I used to, because it's almost like you just want to establish that like your parent knows that you're an adult enough to handle it. But you also need them.
Yeah. But when I was young, I'm hyper independent, which is a trauma response. But when I was younger, I would not tell anyone about my problems until I already had a solution and was working on the solution, because I did not want to hear anyone else's opinions. I did not want anyone to sway my thinking. It's not like the most healthy thing, but that was how I was when I was younger. And she's not necessarily doing that. She just knows she's capable and she no longer needs me to solve her problems for her all the time. So, I mean, it's how we move forward in relationships and make them deeper, is by having this emotional kind of vulnerability, attraction or connection with other people. And I'm lucky to have that with a few people in my life. And it means the world to me. I think it's probably the most important type of connection that I have with other people, are the people who I can be completely myself and real with, and not need to always consider like, are they judging me or you know, anything like that. Just totally be raw, you know. It's most people only have that connection, I think, with a few people, because that's not the world that we live in.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I feel like it's not even people. Like I feel like I could be physically and emotionally attracted to my dog. My dog reaches me on an emotional level, but also I physically need to cuddle with it.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, like
that is absolutely true.
This attraction thing is bizarre.
My dogs have such unconditional love for me that when I'm feeling really shitty about anything, and I come home and they are just like over the moon to see me, that I am the most amazing person on the planet to them. It's so affirming. And then they just want to like cover my face in dog kisses and cuddle with me. And they don't care what I did wrong that day or like what I look like or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
dogs are the best. Yeah. But we can very much tell that if you break it down, attraction is not just simply attraction, because we feel attraction. And sometimes it's like, we might think it's like some sort of forbidden feeling because, you know, for whatever reason, or it's like a foreign or an odd feeling. And we just think attraction, but you're like, what type of attraction? You know, you notice someone and you feel an attraction and you're alert and you're alarmed by it, but you gotta really dig deeper and feel what type of attraction this is, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it's a great way, if you're in the dating scene or whatever, to not discount certain people because you maybe didn't feel an immediate physical attraction or sexual attraction. If you have a lot of things in common with that person, or something just makes you keep going back to that option, explore it, because there are so many different layers to this that, you know, you could be missing out on something great.
Yeah, absolutely. So just open it up to the attraction so that you can see, you know, what your options are, because
Yeah, exactly.
like if you're only thinking that it has to be physical first, and that's just what your goggles are focused on, then all these great options of like the real long-term real loves of your life are just being forgotten until like maybe they found someone else,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
so definitely
Exactly.
keep an eye out for all types of attraction and decide what is really valuable to you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this was a great topic. I think this was a good kind of divergence from what we've been doing. And I thought it was really fun. I got something out of it. This was not something that I would have really given that much thought to. But once you start diving in, it's kind of a rabbit hole.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think it's cool.
All right, you guys, we really appreciate you coming back week to week. And the ones who stick with us, and as we keep growing, telling friends, sharing this podcast with others is how we continue to grow. So we appreciate all of you that are doing that. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to bookmark our site, she'safullonmonet.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, it helps us a lot if you can follow, rate, and review. See y'all next week.